tell me, like, because most of the people that I see of that age today, they might not have that kind of that drive, that action, that passion, and all this stuff. Obviously, you were packing uni in, you were packing this stuff in. So, what was it that was kind of driving this behavior? What was making you feel like, look, I would do this? Because
Fear
otherwise,
of my dad. It was the fear of my dad. That's all it was.
Good old fair. Good. Okay.
Because my dad at that time was about, I can't remember how old he was now. He was about 45. So you could say, I wouldn't call it a crisis, but this was his midlife transition. He'd been working since he was 16. So he'd been in work for about 30 years at this point.
Yeah.
And he really wanted to transition. And I was his, and I'm not saying this as him being a tyrant, but I was his key out of that world. Because he didn't know how to build PCs. I understood all the technical side of things, but he threw the money in. He was gonna understand the financial side of things and talking to suppliers and all that kind of stuff. So bringing those two things together, and he couldn't leave his job full time at that point. So he needed me to kind of pick up wherever he So it was kind of a. So there was some of that, but there was also I'd met somebody when I was like 11 or 12 when this guy built my first PC, and he was a friend of my uncle's, and I'd seen what this guy was driving fancy cars, and he was having the time of his life, and he was getting to enjoy himself and all this, and I'd seen all of this, and so I was seeing the corporate world in front of me, and I was seeing the entrepreneurial world in front of me, and the entrepreneurial world was just so much more exciting. And this was right in front. This wasn't, there was no apps, there was no Facebook, nobody was writing about it in the articles. I was seeing it in front of me. I was seeing this guy his business was doing, I can't remember what the figure was. It was something like 30 grand. It was either 30 grand a day or it was 30 grand a month. I think it was 30 grand a day or a week, something like that. It was stupid numbers. And he was having the time of his life, and he had this really fancy car, and he was really enjoying, and he get to tell people what to do and all this, and he was having fun. And then I see my mum and dad go to work, and they're stressed, and their managers are shouting at them, giving them a hard time, and it's just stress. And this guy's making money, and he's loving it. So I saw both things. So I kind of was, leaning more towards the entrepreneurial side of things.
Okay, excellent. So then, what happened? Like, so you went through that journey for a few years with uni and with your dad and stuff. And tell me what happened from there then.
So the first business only broke even. The second business ended up doing 1 million in the first year, just under £1 million in the first year. So it was shy of about 20 or 30,000 pounds. So, and then my dad had left his work by that point. He'd gone into this business full time. It took a 6-month career break from his main job, and then he never looked back. He's never been back since.
Amazing.
That was it. So he never went back.
So in a way, I guess you did help to achieve the goal that he wanted, which was to get out of the job and get into his own business. Okay,
yeah, absolutely. That absolutely happened. But I was still very young. I wasn't really seeing all of that. But he saw it. He saw the bigger picture, and I played my part in the big. He was more like the conductor of the orchestra, and I was like the violinist. Not when the guy tells you you're good at your violin, or he doesn't tell you maybe, and you just the odd people in the auditorium like, oh, that concert was so good, I was just this violin kid in the corner, So so that did a million in the first year. Our life completely changed. My dad had always wanted a BMW. He finally got his BMW. He wanted to build, he wanted to build this 5-bedroom house, and he wanted, he got all the things that, But the interesting thing is, as soon as that business started doing really, really well, like as soon as my mum could see that he's never going to go back, he's never going to go back to work again, and our lives are going to be very different financially, the first thing she said to him was, whatever profit that you've made after paying for expenses and everything, we're going on Hajj. And then he paid for himself, for my mum, for me, for my 2 sisters, and he paid for everything, like the tickets, the flight, the accommodation, everything. He paid for everything.
Amazing.
And then we were there for 6 weeks. We were in Saudi. The first thing that happened as soon as we got that money is we were in Saudi Arabia for 6 weeks. And he would pay for everyone. Like there were other families that were staying in the room with us because this is before he had got all these 5-star hotels and all these experiences. So you're in a room with like 10 other people, and he was paying for everyone. He was paying for their food, and he was paying for the tea, and he was running around, and and the business was running back home, and so that my mum made the first thing that my mum made him do with that money was, right, we're going on Hajj. So that year for me, the year 2000 was very transformative because I got an internship that year because I'd fallen out with my dad because I was like, I'm really tired of playing this violin and my fingers are hurting kind of. And I'd got an internship that year. I'd moved away for the first time in my life, but then but this business was doing really well, and then I'd gone on Hajj as well. So there was a lot of like transformation. There was a lot going on around me, and then from there it kind of just he kept running that business. I'd had enough after that. I was like, I've had enough. I'm going to go and do my own thing. So
okay, great.